I'm all right.
This is Fantasy Football for Dummies. As you can see, I'm the dummy, PC expert. Welcome back, everybody out there in podcast land. Thank you for joining us on the program, Fantasy Football for Dummies. Today on the program, we have Joe Lynn, a self-proclaimed expert of fantasy football. Joe, I like sports, but baseball in general. But I really like to get into football. Everything I have on is just presents and stuff that I wear to make people feel good. Can you tell me a little bit about fantasy football?
Yeah, I can do that for you, Adam. Fantasy football is a fun league comprising of around 10 or 12 family or friend members that they'll compete each week of the NFL National Football League season. This season comprises of 17 weeks, and depending on how well you draft your fantasy football team is how well you're doing in the fantasy football league.
Okay, so now I know a little bit about fantasy football. What positions do I pick for each team?
There'll be a quarterback position, 2 running back positions, 2 wide receiver positions, a tight end position, a place kicker position, and also a defensive team position on your fantasy football team.
Oh, so you pick about everybody. Now what about if my favorite quarterback gets knocked out?
There'll be actually bench players that you'll be able to substitute in. There's usually enough bench players in a league to back up each positional player that I just described before. Now also, if your quarterback gets hurt and if he has a bye week, you can put your backup quarterback in that position. Now also, there is ways to pick up free agent players that no one has drafted in the league and put them on your team also and place them in your starting lineup.
This just seems to get deeper and deeper. So now I have all my positions picked out. How does my team score in fantasy football?
Your team will score based on how well your positional players score points. Now, quarterbacks score points based on how many passing yards they have during a game. Running backs will score points based on how many rushing yards they have. Tight ends and wide receivers will score points based on how many receiving yards they have. Now, each of these players will get 6 points for each touchdown they score, throw, or catch. Now, kickers will get points based on how many field goals they kick during a game, and defensive teams will score points based on how many points they give up against their opposing team that week. Now, they will also get points based on how many turnovers they have against the other team, and that includes interceptions, fumbles, and also block kicks.
Oh, so actually it's a pretty simple point system. So now I know about positions and scoring, but what about the most important part, drafting?
A big key on drafting your fantasy football team is to have a player ranking system. These player ranking systems are pretty tough to come up on your own, considering all the players that are in the NFL. But there are websites out there that already have this laid out for you. Websites include yahoo.com, espn.com, foxsports.com, and also fantasyfootballtoolbox.com. These websites will help you get started creating your own player ranking systems. I advise you to compare and contrast each of these player ranking systems that they come up with and come up with your own player ranking system. Now, this will actually conclude episode 1 of Fantasy Football for Dummies. Please join us for our next episode where I'll go more in depth on how to draft your fantasy football team.
Thank you for watching. Once again, I'm the dummy.
And I'm the expert.
That's all she wrote!